So hi, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Tony Craythorne, and I'm joined here by Mark Wade. We're both from a company called Bamboo Systems, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to chat to the folks today and share what it is we're doing. So what is it that Bamboo are producing and have launched? So the one thing that a lot of people have been talking about over many years are our ARM servers coming to the data center, and I'll talk about that. But we absolutely today see that there is a gap in the market for an enterprise ARM computer company, a firm that only focus on ARM systems and ARM solutions. And our focus is on the enterprise. ARM and other ODMs out there are 100% focused on hyperscalers, whereas Bamboo are focused on the enterprise. And we will come back and talk about some of our customer wins later on. And our mission is a very bold one. It's to make the x86 data center a thing of the past. And we actually have an internal mission ourselves of eliminating all x86 systems out of Bamboo within the next 2 years. So some of the management team, you'll notice a common theme here. A lot of us have worked together before. So I'm Tony, I'm CEO. I've got a background in data storage and servers. Dr. Jeff Barrell. Jeff's pretty well known in Silicon Valley. He's our Chief Product Officer. He's the founder of Blue Arc, Drobo, Connected Data. Most recently, he was CTO at Hitachi Vantara, got a lot of expertise. He's also our chairman as well. Stuart is someone that we worked together before, and is one of these guys. It's very easy to have an idea for a new product, turning it into a real product and building the engineering, distribution, etc. for it, and manufacturing is an art form, and that's what Stuart does. And then Andy Hill is a storage and server sales veteran. He and I have worked together for multiple companies, so he runs sales for us. And then over on the right-hand side, you'll see awards that Bamboo won. We've actually won a couple more this year. We need to update this. But it really has been quite incredible, the journey that we've been on. We've had over almost 200 articles written about us, won countless awards. It really has been quite a journey. So what is it we're doing? We're targeting a huge market. This is the on-prem, so it's an $80 billion market, but it's always been dominated by x86. But if you look at the architecture of an x86 server, it hasn't actually changed that much. It's if you look on the back of a current HP server, it's still got a keyboard port, a mouse port, a VGA port. These are things that you just don't need. But what have changed are the workloads. The workloads have now become highly parallel. Kubernetes is dominating everything. So people are just throwing more and more compute at the problem. And then everybody knows that there is a major issue in terms of power and cooling of data centers today. And that problem is just going to get worse. So we think there's a better solution. Everybody talks about Intel dominates everything, but actually when you look at it, they don't. If you look at your iPhone, your phone, you might be iPhone or Google, your iPad, your car, your network router, everything today has a low power processor by ARM. So that actually means that Intel really only have one last place left, which is the data center. And then if you start to look at what the analysts are predicting, down in the bottom left, the hype cycle always generates quite a lot of discussion. But Gartner predicting the ARM servers, they're not far behind hyperconverged, which I think is now about an $8 billion market. But then if you don't believe that, look at some of the other companies that have or are transitioning to ARM. AWS are the 800-pound gorilla. They have the same challenges in data center that other people do in terms of do more compute in less space for less power and cooling and reducing carbon footprint. And what have they done? They've invested massively in an ARM instance in Graviton 2. The world's fastest supercomputer runs on ARM. Apple have announced 100% moving to ARM now, although that doesn't impact the data center and enterprise. Well, it does in terms of a laptop. But what that does is help drive the ecosystem. And then obviously, the big one is NVIDIA going through the process right now of buying ARM. And if you listen to Jensen Huang speak, one of the main reasons they're doing that is because they want to put ARM in the data center as part of their solution. Right, it's actually an IDC chart. and verifies, you know, what I said in terms of where the market is today. But if you look at what IDC are predicting, you know, the ARM server market the server market today is about an $80 billion market. IDC are predicting that this market becomes a $100 billion market in the next 9 years. It's quite staggering, just for the ARM and RISC-V, which is something that we're keeping an eye on. So before I hand over to Mark, you know, just a quick overview of our product. If you Google ARM servers, there are a lot of ARM servers out there today, but all everybody else has done, as it says here, is literally taken an ARM processor and stuck it into an x86 motherboard. We didn't do that. We as a company, we literally started it from scratch, and Mark will go into more detail on the blades, etc. But what we did is completely redesign the inside of the system. We took out all the stuff that you don't need. We optimized our blades for ARM technology, and got a lot more compute in a much smaller space. So, you know, the B1000, that server there that's currently shipping from us. When you usually see a one-use server, there's one server in it. In the B1000, you've got 8 fully functional servers, each with their own CPU, memory, and processing that can operate independently, or because of obviously a lot of today's parallel workloads that they work, that we're able to actually cluster them together so we can get really high throughput. And I know that Mark and James will be covering some of the real numbers in terms of the real savings that we can generate. Okay, so with that, Mark, I'll hand over to you.
Sure, thanks, Tony. So this is an image of the architecture that we have inside the B1000N. So you can see here that the 8 separate independent servers that Tony was referencing, you can see that they are complete. So each CPU has NVMe attached over PCIe, so it's high speed. They each have their own RAM, obviously, and they also have 2 10-gig network connections, which are all connected together into an Ethernet switch on each of the blades. So this is obviously a 2-blade system. So we've got 8 CPUs across the whole system. And as Tony said there, that this is very much designed for the modern workloads. So hardware can now scale in line with the software workload scaling. So nodes can spin up and spin down in response to kind of real-time software requirements. So now kind of diving into kind of some of the individual blocks. So this is our smallest building block of the system. So this is our compute node. So this is where we have 8 of these in each system. So this is based on an NXP processor, which is based on obviously ARM mobile technology. So very low power consumption, high compute efficiency. But this particular process has more cores than you'd normally find in a cell phone application. So this has 16 A72 cores running at 2 gigahertz. What we've used here is a module which follows the COM Express Type 7 form factor. So this enables us to have some flexibility for the future, where we may support different processors further down the road. You can also see on the top here, it's got SODIMM RAM, which is, I guess, an unusual choice for a server. More commonly found in laptops, but because of our high density, we're packing 8 of these into the system. We needed the small form factor that the SODIMM gave us. So then we pack 4 of those nodes into each blade. So this is called the N blade because of the NXP. So as you can see, you can't actually see the modules. They're on the bottom side of this board, but what you can see is the 4 NVMe. So these are M.2 NVMe connected over PCIe Gen 3. So it goes through the board and onto the module on the other side. And just off screen, right at the top right-hand corner, that's where we have our network switch. That takes 2 10-gig ports from each of the modules and outputs a dual 40-gig QSFP to the data center off the backside. So with that kind of networking coming off the back, we can support numerous network configurations. So we can fine-tune the installation to match the customer's requirements for redundancy and bandwidth. So then we pull all this together. So each 1U chassis can take up to 2 blades. Obviously, there's all the normal stuff you'd find in the chassis as well. So dual platinum power supplies, temperature management with the fan controls, system configuration. Obviously, our system's more complex to set up. So we've done as much as we can to kind of ease that pain for customers to make it simple to set up 8 servers in the one box. And of course, you get the iconic bamboo fascia, which we're showing off there. So this is really just to summarize. This is a fully populated platform, and it provides outstandingly dense power. So up to 128 cores, half a terabyte of RAM, 64 terabyte of full bandwidth storage. And with all of these components, it's a very attractive server, which is very applicable to many environments and customer users. So with that, I think we're throwing over to questions.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, hi, Justin Warren from Pivot 9. I can see that you've got lots of features there about what's in the ARM system, and you've shown the trend about ARM generally. Why is it that customers would pick Bamboo as their ARM choice if they're looking for an ARM solution?
So if you look at just all the other ARM servers out there, they're manufactured by ODMs or I'm not going to say no-name vendors, but none of the major corporate suppliers, so the Lenovo's, Dells, HPs, etc. Nobody has actually launched a server to the enterprise and built an enterprise channel for it. So as we get into our customers. When you're a startup, you're usually fighting for your first customer, right? And it could be a tiny no-name company in Boise, Idaho, or something like that. Our first customers are, most of them, Fortune 100 companies. And they've recognized that the system that we've built is obviously made from high-end components. We've built the support behind it. We've got the channel ready to go behind it as well. And what we've also done is made the system as simple and easy as possible to buy it, to test it, to try it. Because the one thing that we know isn't going to happen, people aren't just going to throw out their x86 and try an ARM server. So what we've done is built the B1000 to make it really, really simple for people to try it, test the workloads, work with we've got a fantastic team where James later on will get into talking about some of the software that we've not only tested for the customer, or the customer's tested, but we've also been we've been able to compile it across from their current platform to our entire support capability to support an enterprise. Whereas at the moment, all the other ARM servers out there are ODM, Fox, etc. Gigabyte, that just don't have that enterprise class support. One of our first customers, which actually is one of the world's largest oil and gas companies, actually tried to buy a system from one of those other companies, and they wouldn't sell it to them. They just couldn't figure out, because their model is different and their go-to-market is different. So hopefully I answered the question. Right now we think we are the only company with an enterprise support and focus on the enterprise market.
Stephen Foskett from Gestalt IT. I wanted to follow up on that question from Justin. So the presentation focused quite a lot on the architecture of the system itself, but your differentiator sounds to be focused more on the go-to-market and support side of things. So in your place as CEO, you're going out and selling these. What's your lead? Do you lead with architecture, or do you lead with support?
We lead with being the best enterprise ARM server on the market. So it's a combination of both, Stephen. It's, when the fact that, again, what I said earlier, that everybody else is just stuck an ARM chip into an x86 motherboard, we've done it completely different. We've literally designed it from the ground up. So, that's why we've got 8 servers in 1 year. No one else has done that. And that's one of the things that becoming very, very attractive to a lot of our customers. Plus the power and the power and cooling savings that we generate are absolutely huge. But then obviously, we have built that, we've got an SE team, we've got a support team that are there designed for enterprise. And then we've built, our distribution channels around there's no mythical server and storage channel out there. Everybody uses the same people. The last count I saw, there were 52,000 server and storage resellers in the world. And that requires a distribution network to reach them. So we've got a fantastic distributor here in the US, Client Channel Solutions. We've got a fantastic distributor in Europe, Spinnaker. And then we've got another fantastic distributor, Zen Group, currently covering South Asia, who all of the enterprise VARs know and work with already. So it's a combination of those 3 things, Stephen.
Hey, Tony, this may be for Mark. This is Kurt Marco, the lone voice from Boise, Idaho, actually. So believe it or not.
It's good to see you again, Kurt.
And people that follow the ARM market will know that ARM introduced their next generation architecture, actually they previewed it about a year ago, this month, and provided some more details in the spring. So you're using the NXP, it looks like a Layerscape V8 architecture, but it looks like your backplane is modular enough to accommodate kind of that future ARM roadmap. And I understand you're not going to want to preview products, but can you speak to how Bamboo is positioned its architecture to kind of follow that ARM technological wave as it progresses at a quite rapid rate?
Absolutely, and that's central to why we did the modular design. So we had future flexibility, either from supply chain challenges down the road, and to try and maintain pace with ARM. So as you say, they roll out new architectures on a fairly frequent basis. And one of the reasons we're with the NXP at the moment is because it's got such a high core count for quite an efficient size package. And it's also one of the last devices which was like a sole type of Cortex. So most of the ones that follows, most of the chips that have made past that, they follow the big little architecture. So they maybe have 2 large processors and 4 smaller ones, which doesn't play very well into the server space where we're trying to use several cores of the same size. So now that ARM have released the N1 Neoverse and the N2 Neoverse, we're keeping our eyes firmly on silicon manufacturers to see if there's any new options that come along from any of these manufacturers that would suit our architecture. So hopefully we'll be able to speak more on that in the future.
We absolutely have a roadmap. We're obviously not going to divulge it right now, but we have 2 other products that we're working on right now that will be coming out in the next 12 months.
Hey guys, Denny Cherry from Denny Cherry and Associates Consulting. Hey, question for you about larger environments, or not larger environments, but larger systems. So a lot of our clients have database servers that run the hundreds of gigs of RAM, terabytes of RAM. How do we address something like that in a solution like that, where it's more carved up in the compute node world? Okay,
so again, our objective with the B1000, as I said, it's a product that we designed specifically. What I did here is I didn't reinvent the wheel. I copied exactly what really successful companies like Data Domain and Barracuda did, which is they brought out a product that was there to be able to people just to test the workload, see what works on it. So the B1000 is designed for that. I mentioned our roadmap. Watch this space for more powerful systems coming out from Bamboo. But right now, our focus is on the B1000, and that is just about every single one of our customers. I will touch on a couple of them later, but most of them are doing exactly what we thought they would do, which is buy it, test it, try it, see what's going to work. And we have lost some deals where we just weren't powerful enough in terms, especially in some large HPC environments. But watch this space. We have some products coming out that will address that. And again, 100% focused on ARM. We're not doing anything else.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So right now, would you say kind of the sweet spot for if I want to put like the production apps on the solution would be kind of that 4 to 8 core application where I need to be able to run it on just that smaller subset of cores where we'll use 12, 16, 18, 24 gig of RAM. And just not targeting that giant stuff right now.
I would say yes. Please correct me, Mark, if you want to. But this machine has been built for throughput. There are chips out there from people like Ampere, which we're looking at the moment that are much more powerful. So again, the position of the B1000 is a simple, easy box system to try. But is also incredibly efficient in terms of power and energy. The Ampere chips are a little bit more hungry. So, let's say if Bamboo was to bring out, a more powerful system, then maybe we'd lose some of our energy efficient credentials. But our goal as a company is to have a range of products that are based on ARM that fit every case over time. But we started shipping the B1000 in April. We were a little bit late with it. COVID, unfortunately, we're a hardware company. So, every single time a COVID hit our office, it took our office down for 2 weeks with all of our engineers. And then, there's well-publicized global component shortages as well. Touch wood, we've been fine. This is where our COO, Stuart Gallagher, the guy is an absolute master at finding stuff that nobody else can find. So we're doing all right. At the moment, we literally, every time we build systems, we sell out of them immediately, which is quite staggering for a startup. We haven't done any marketing yet. We've done zero marketing. All of the customers have found us so far. So we're figuring out the use cases as we're going along as well. And there have been some really interesting ones. Some that we've worked fantastically with, others that we haven't. But if as and when we bring out a more powerful solution, we know who those customers are, and we'll be going back to them.
Yeah, I can see lots of potential workloads for the B1000 exactly as it is.
Yep. It's a really good system. It really is. And again, with Fortune, we've got one Fortune 10 customer, let's put it that way, that have got 6,000 servers, and they bought 3 so far, and they're doing exactly what we said that we hope customers would do. They're looking at which workloads can run on it today, and then as they do want to transition to an ARM data center because they're under legislation to reduce their carbon footprint and go to a net zero data center, and that's something else that we that we absolutely do. They're the company that came to us with the calculation on how much CO2 we actually save. We hadn't calculated that; they did calculate it for us. So there's been some really interesting use cases that I think we're going to get into later on. That some we thought of and some that we didn't.
So Tony, maybe you could speak to that a little more. I mean, you make the point legitimately that the server reduces your energy consumption by 75%. The whole argument about performance per watt is kind of the new Moore's law.
Yeah.
Can you speak to how maybe the server buyers that you're talking to are starting to factor that energy consumption and carbon footprint into their buying decisions, and add that to their to all the other criteria that we're familiar with?
Every single large company that we've either sold to or we're talking to, I'm quite staggered every day, the logos that are appearing on our website and coming and talking to us. Huge banks, huge pharmaceutical companies, some of which you'll know because one of them makes the vaccine, one of the vaccines. Some huge universities are coming to us where they've got their energy, their power and cooling and energy charges are getting out of control. And one of the things that one of our first customers, the Fortune 10 company, they're one of the world's largest oil and gas companies. We've now had one of the other big guys come to us because they are under strict legislation now to reduce their carbon footprint. So as I mentioned, they're the ones that came to us about that. But just about every one of our, what I would classify really large enterprise customers that we've won so far, that's been one of their primary concerns, is to reduce their power and cooling and then be able to justify how they're moving towards a net zero data center. But then we've got some smaller customers. One of the ones we'll talk about later is well, not smaller, they're one of the world's largest genomics firms. But what they want to do, go figure. There's half the world runs, well, most of the world runs on ARM chips. But what everybody has to do today is develop the software on x86 and then recompile it over to ARM. And now we're starting to see customers coming to us that want to do just that, develop an ARM for their ARM devices. So it's a real mixture, but those large enterprises with thousands of servers are all looking at us as a way to save money and save carbon footprint. And have recognized that ARM will do that. It's a great question.
Yeah, so Tony, you mentioned that you're going to talk a little bit more about some of the details later. I'm just wondering if you could maybe elaborate on some of the workloads that people are coming and testing. As you say, this is how they test the waters and get comfortable. What are some of the workloads that they're using?
It's right away across the board. We've got obviously we've been Kubernetes is going to be we're a fantastic platform for that. So we've got lots of customers looking at that. We've got a lot of customer specific applications. And then, you know, what everybody is doing is testing those various workloads. All right, if there aren't any other questions, thank you for your time. Great questions. I really enjoyed it. I know that Mark did. So with that, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.